everyone and welcome back to this week's video. This week we are looking at 4 key quotations for Macbeth, and we are linking each of these quotations to 4 different key themes as well. Okay, so the first quotation that we're going to look at is taken from Act 1, Scene 2, and it is taken from the captain, the bloody captain's speech, who is reporting to King Duncan about the battle between the Norwegians, the Scottish rebels, and Macbeth and the Scottish army. The captain describes Macbeth having a brandished steel which smoked with bloody execution. So the first thing that we're going to do for each quotation is we're going to analyse it twice, thinking about improving our depth of analysis. Then we're going to link it to another moment in the play, because that's another really important skill in your English literature essays. And then once we've done that, we can explore how this quotation is really fluid and can link to 4 different key themes. So the first thing that we would analyse in this quotation is the verb smoked, because it reinforces Macbeth's barbaric and senseless violence. The blade he is holding is a light with unlimited slaughter that he is enacting in this battle. Another word that is interesting to look at is the word execution, because Shakespeare is subtly foreshadowing Macbeth's eventual demise, which reveals that unchecked ambition is foolish and is warning the dangers of having that. If I was to link this quotation to another moment in the play, obviously you've got all of the quotations that you would use in Act 1, Scene 2 from the captain's speech, but if we're thinking about sort of another moment in which Macbeth is shown to be this barbaric and senseless murderer, I would link it to at the very end when Macbeth is described as this dead butcher and his fiend-like queen. So Shakespeare is exploring the innate savagery of Macbeth. So innate means that it's within you, it's an automatic natural instinct. And his character does not deviate, so does not change from the way he's been introduced to us. So he's been introduced to us as this savage, senseless murderer who kills people with ease and no thought and lack of guilt. And it's this idea that at the beginning he's celebrated by the captain and the 2 trusting King Duncan. However, at the very end of the play, because of the nature in which Macbeth's murder takes place and the fact that he commits regicide and he commits really immoral murder, it's now that violence is now condemned. Perhaps Shakespeare is using this play as a warning against the dangers of a man's soul when he's exposed to sinful desires. So that sinful desire of regicide therefore makes his violence less worthy in society. Okay, so we're going to look at 4 key quotations and we're going to link them to 4 different themes. The key themes in this video are all the same, so ambition, guilt, supernatural and kingship. And the purpose of this video is to sort of show you how actually fluid quotations can be in the play. You don't need to remember, 30 quotations from the play. You can be really clever with the ones that you select, and then when your question comes up on your GCSE, you can think about how do the quotations you've remembered link to that actual theme or concept. So the first theme we're going to look at is the idea around ambition. So for this quotation, Shakespeare presents Macbeth's character as someone who is capable of unlimited slaughter and that he's unwilling to let anything stand in his way. Okay, he is willing to slice his way through the enemy in order to achieve greatness in battle. The next theme as we're going to look at is guilt, and we're going to look at it in 2 parts. So in the first instance, in this quotation, through the captain's description, we see that Macbeth is savage and bloodthirsty, and he does not feel any guilt at all committing this violence. And again, Shakespeare is clearly indicating the length Macbeth is willing to go in order to achieve his ambition. And it also proves that his initial motives are absence of guilt. Okay, so he's just willing to kill and be violent in order to get what he wants. Thinking about the phrase bloody execution, Macbeth commits regicide, which is so heinous. And we know that before Macbeth commits regicide, he's overwhelmed with that feeling of guilt because he knows that that action is immoral. However, in this part of the play, at the very beginning, we see that he's not struggling with the morality. He's willing to commit this violence, okay, because this sort of violence isn't immoral because it's in the defence of his king and his country. The next theme is the supernatural, and you might think that this quotation has nothing to do with the theme of the supernatural. It's quite a subtle link, and it's a very clever link. So I'd make sure I think about sort of how I would do this in my own exam. So structurally in the play, we are introduced to the witches in Act 1, Scene 1. They claim fair is foul, okay, which encourages the audience to already not trust Macbeth, okay, because they know that through his connection to witchcraft, because they are the people who introduce Macbeth's name to the audience, and it's this idea that they clearly have some deceptive control over Macbeth. Thinking about Macbeth's blade, which smokes, and linking it to the fact that the witches claim that they hover through the fog and filthy air, and this perhaps hints at Macbeth's duplicitous, so double-sided nature, because he's hiding the true purpose of his violence. Is he committing this violence because he wants to be promoted after the battle? Interestingly, we also have the captain comparing the scene of the battle to shipwrecking storms and direful thunders. This metaphor is not an accident, and again it hints at the havoc wreaked by the witches. Okay, so what is assumed as Macbeth's ability and prowess as a soldier could in fact be a product of the witches' meddling and manipulation, and that's up to you to decide what avenue you'd like to go down. Okay, you can decide that you actually think that Macbeth does have autonomy and does have control over his violence and his ambition, or could you think about how actually maybe he has less control because of the witch's supernatural powers. The final theme that we're going to look at is the theme of kingship. And Shakespeare uses Macbeth's introduction to reveal the extent he's willing to go. Macbeth's ambition is evident when he uses the blade which smoked with bloody execution, and it proves that he is not against immoral actions. Okay, he's willing to commit that murder and violence in the battle. Shakespeare intensifies the ominous nature of Macbeth, hinting that he actually takes sadistic pleasure in the pain and agony that he's inflicting on other people. And also, he's using this moment to warn the audience of the dangers of men using violence and tyranny to maintain control. That is why Macbeth does not make a good king, is because his claim to the throne is based on ultimate violence, okay? Wouldn't be a video by me if I didn't include my favourite quotation. So this quotation, whose horrid image doth unfix my hair and made my seated heart knock at my ribs. So again, we're going to go through the language analysis, the link to the other moment in the play, and then we'll do the theme links. So the first bit of analysis we could do is the adjective horrid reveals that Macbeth recognises the sinful nature of his regicidal thoughts. Okay, so the fact that he is considering regicide makes him feel really uncomfortable. The actions of unfix my hair, which you've got to imagine is almost like his hair standing up on end, and his heart knocking, so his heart is thumping, reveals that Macbeth is either perturbed, so he's disturbed by the thoughts of regicide, with this physical reaction, and further intensifies the anxiety that has been created. Or alternatively, you could also think about those actions as being symbolic to his excitement. This sort of path towards his ambition is becoming clearer to Macbeth, and that's what is spurring him on and motivating him. A moment that you could link to this quotation later on in the play is when he says, "Is this a dagger which I see before me?" And Shakespeare uses Macbeth's hallucinations to reinforce the subversive nature of regicide. Macbeth's unnatural reactions to the thought of regicide have escalated quite significantly in a short space of time, and since his seated heart knocks, it reinforces the murderous and destructive path Macbeth has chosen to go on. And again, if you were thinking about a character to link that to, it would be Banquo and the different paths that they take. Banquo is the honourable, noble character, and he's the complete antithesis to Macbeth and the path that he chooses. Okay, linking this quotation to the theme of ambition, Shakespeare uses Macbeth's reaction to the thoughts of regicide to reveal Macbeth's desire to usurp King Duncan. The actions on Fix and Heart Knock imply that Macbeth appears excited at the prospect of becoming king, and he acknowledges that these thoughts are horrid, which shows actually that Macbeth is completely against any morality, okay, because he does not actually appear discouraged by the sinful nature of his thoughts. And perhaps Shakespeare's showing us that the dangers of unchecked ambition, because Macbeth is eager to place his trust in the witches, which we know, according to King James, is absolutely heinous. The theme of guilt then, little bit similar to the previous quotation in some regards. If you're going down the excitement route, then you could say that Macbeth has a lack of guilt. He still mentions, Shakespeare still uses the word horrid, which suggests that he does admit that it's immoral, but potentially through the excitement that then therefore overarches that sense of guilt. You could also suggest that Macbeth recognises how these thoughts are immoral and nihilistic, but if that thought of guilt is not enough to stop Macbeth from actually committing the regicide, and then therefore Shakespeare's condemning this idea of treachery. Linking to the supernatural, again, you might look at that and think, how does this link to the supernatural? The way I would link that is through the word image. Shakespeare uses Macbeth's regicidal thoughts to warn the audience of the dangers of supernatural soliciting, so that means communicating with the supernatural. Shakespeare emphasises the dangers of submitting to the temptation of the devil, and we know that Jacobean society felt that witches were called the agents of the devil. And Macbeth is eager to put the horrid image that he's seeing into action. The reference to the image could also demonstrate how actually he's really extremely linked to the witches, because he experiences later on in the play a series of hallucinations, and is this image the first indication that the witches are using Macbeth's savagery and violent characteristic to their advantage, because they know the type of man he is, and that they then manipulate him in order to create that chaos that exists in Scotland. Linking to the theme of kingship, you've got Shakespeare using this moment to reveal the dangers of usurping the rightful king, so going against the great chain of being. The thought of committing regicide physically repulses Macbeth when he says it unfixes his hair and makes his heart knock, which emphasises how regicidal thoughts are very dangerous. Shakespeare subtly hints at the foundation of how disrupting that great chain of being can cause chaos, like I said before, with the supernatural. Macbeth's physical aversion, which means like the fact that he feels sort of disgusted by his own thoughts, warns the audience that the act of regicide is extremely unnatural. Next quotation is, "Stars hide your fires, let not light see my black and deep desires." Language analysis, we would look at the motif of darkness, which reveals Macbeth's path to corruption. We know that the motif of darkness is also linked to the witches when they meet under the cover of darkness. They say that they'll meet Macbeth ere the set of the sun, so after the sun is set. And it shows that he is willing to align himself with the witches to achieve his ambition. So we know how dangerous Macbeth's motivations are. Shakespeare cleverly warns the audience of both the dangers of colluding with what were considered agents of the devil, but also he's warning against the act of regicide. I would also zoom in on the word deep, because it shows us how deeply ingrained ambition is within Macbeth. Okay, the ambition doesn't develop as soon as Lady Macbeth speaks to him. He has always been an ambitious character, and we know that through how he acted in Act 1, Scene 2, and how he fought and defended for his country. But we got to think about what were the real reasons behind what motivated him to become that savage in the battle. If I was to link this to another quotation, you could link this to Lady Macbeth when she says, "Pull thee in the dunnest smoke of hell." And what we're being shown here is that both of them call upon the supernatural to achieve their corrupt path to greatness. Shakespeare uses the theme of the supernatural to confirm King James I's belief that witches are dangerous and have the power to corrupt society. So again, we've got this underlying idea of how Macbeth, regicide, and communicating with the supernatural is completely immoral and evil. So linking this quotation to ambition, we are looking at Shakespeare uses the Macbeth's reaction to the news that Malcolm is named the heir of King Duncan when he's described as being the Prince of Cumberland to reveal his true motivations. Through his interaction with the witches, he feels that it is his fate to become king, and he now realises he must set this in motion himself. You've got that word deep, intensifies Macbeth's ambition and leads the audience to question Macbeth's initial savagery, because we question, is Macbeth just a loyal soldier, or is this the idea that he thought he would become king through the act of tanistry, which now we know King Duncan has changed through to primogeniture. Then we've got the link to guilt. Shakespeare uses the juxtaposition between light and darkness to prove that Macbeth is positioned at a moral crossroads. Through his request for the supernatural to intervene and to allow him to commit regicide in secret, his path towards corruption is really clear to us. The adjective black proves that Macbeth acknowledges that his route to power is heinous and therefore requires darkness to cover up his deed, and also to remove that feeling of guilt if he feels like he can do it in secret and no one's actually going to accuse him of this treachery. Linking it to the supernatural, we know that Shakespeare reveals that Macbeth is linked to the witches because they introduce the concept of Macbeth when they talk about him. His curiosity in their power has been confirmed through his new title, Thane of Cawdor. So he's seen the presumed power of the witches when one of their premonitions becomes true. And now he seeks to use that power to become king and confirm their next prophecy. If we link it to the quotation, the fog and filthy air, Shakespeare's hinting at Macbeth's corruption through his desire to mimic the witches. So again, this desire to call upon the darkness in order to get what he wants. And he's using deception to commit regicide. Lastly, the theme of kingship. Shakespeare uses Macbeth's reaction to the news that Malcolm is named the heir of King Duncan to reveal his true motivations. It's revealed that Macbeth's true desire is to become king, so we see what is motivating Macbeth in the beginning of this play. And we know that this desire to become king actually overleaps any sense of morality. And Shakespeare shows that Macbeth is willing to purge himself of any honour and morality in order to succeed kingship. Final quotation for today's video. Upon my head they placed a fruitless crown and put a barren sceptre in my grip. I actually really like this quotation because it really reveals what later haunts Macbeth. His power becomes diminished. He no longer feels that he is as truly invincible as he once did. The first thing that I would look at would be the nouns sceptre and crown, because they both reinforce Macbeth's motivation in the play. His rhetoric, so his speech, is flooded with the imagery of kingship, which intensifies the extent he's willing to go to achieve the longevity on the throne. So not only is has he gained the throne and he has fulfilled the witches' prophecies, that's not enough for Macbeth, because now he wants to solidify his power by removing any of the obstacles. And the obstacles for Macbeth is that sort of haunting of the witches when they tell Banquo that his descendants will become kings. He knows now that he needs to remove any threat. So those threats were Malcolm and Donalbain have escaped to England and Ireland, and also you've got the threat of Fleance, you've got the threat of Macduff's son. So we know that his savagery escalates further. I would also look at the adjectives fruitless and barren coupled together, because it reinforces Macbeth's frustration at his limited power. He is not happy that he has no heir to the throne, therefore he cannot leave a legacy, and that eliminates his power as a king. If I was to link this to another moment in the play, I would link it to the final apparitions that the witches show Macbeth, and one of them is a third apparition, a child crowned. So this is an additional reminder that Macbeth's claim to the throne is very unstable. The witches continue to haunt Macbeth. They tease Macbeth, they're manipulating him, they're playing havoc on his mind, and they want him to feel confused, because that will then enhance his desire to do anything to maintain that control, which is what, according to a Jacobean society, is what witches would do, because they would want chaos to ensue. And finally, our thematic links. The theme of ambition, we've got Macbeth's route to ultimate power has been thwarted because he's haunted by his lack of an heir, something that Banquo and King Duncan both have. There's recognition of how Macbeth's power is impotent, which means it's actually lacking, acts as a catalyst for the following bloodthirsty acts committed by Macbeth. Okay, so this is what spurs Macbeth on his next killing rampage in the play. The theme of guilt. In this moment, Shakespeare reveals Macbeth's absence of any guilt. Again, we've got that battle between Macbeth feeling guilt at committing regicide, and then at this point in the play, he's committed regicide, and he now sort of wants to get rid of anything in his way, and he's completely sort of lacking any sense of guilt and remorse. So therefore, Shakespeare's reinforcing how dangerous ambition is, and how dangerous it is to collude with the supernatural, because through that it eradicates any sense of morality. The theme of the supernatural, it's this idea that Shakespeare continues to present Macbeth as someone who is obsessed with the witch's power. Okay, his mind is polluted through his transaction of his soul, which he describes as his jewel in this same speech. Macbeth will do all he can to stop Banquo's prophecy from coming true, because it not only stands in his way, but also emasculates him. Okay, the fact that he is not able to provide himself an heir is an emasculating quality within the Jacobean era. Shakespeare also wants to warn the audience of the witch's power, because their manipulation over Macbeth is clear, because he's being controlled and continues his unchecked ambition and continues to create chaos later on in the play. If we're linking to the theme of kingship, we go back to our language analysis of the nouns sceptre and crown, because they reinforce Macbeth's sole motivation to become king and to maintain that kingship. I would also look at the metaphor. Macbeth notes that the witches handed him a sceptre by prophesying that he would become king. The sceptre is barren, it's not fertile, because they also predicted that he will not have a male heir, and the sceptre therefore means that the kingship will pass to an unrelated person through King Duncan's change in the succession of kings. For Macbeth, this barren nature to his kingship hinders his ambition, because now he feels threatened by Banquo and his ability to have descendants who will therefore become king and leave a longer legacy than Macbeth. Okay, really long video today, but I think it's really, really useful thinking about how you can link different quotations to different themes, and it just shows you that you don't need to have an unlimited list of quotations, because there are ways in which you can sort of fit it with the theme that could come up on your exam.